And all right, I got a little bit of time before I'm gotta go to church. I was listening to my own videos. I started doing these videos because that's how I learn. I'm an auditory kinesthetic communicator. So when I say things, my ears hear what I'm saying and my mind starts processing it. And then I started having some high level influencers paying attention to my videos. So I'm like, oh, I better pay attention to what I'm saying, making sure I have some kind of content that's worthy. Okay. So I had a situation, had a young lady from church, very conscientious girl. She moved here from another state, left college. She went to school to be a civil engineer. I'm like, you'd be talking to the bishop of the church. She's a civil engineer. Well, he knew who she was. Um, you know, and I'm like, okay, that's not what I wanted to have happen. Him just to know her. I wanted him to help her, right? So I'm like, okay, let me see what I can do. Well, she knows CAD. I had this guy that was a event coordinator in San Diego, and he loved having me come to his events, and he introduced me to people, and 9 times out of 10, like 100% of the time, I would know somebody who worked what they work, or I knew somebody who did what they did every time, right? And he just thought that was, I didn't understand how to capitalize on that. Now I do. Okay, well, I'm like, okay. So I also had a really good friend who was rated the number one land surveyor in the United States in 2004 because he was the first surveyor that learned how to use a robotic surveyor scope. So he could do more by himself than a four-man team could do using the robotic surveyor scope and a handheld GPS. All right. So he would always come to me, ask me if I knew anybody who could do CAD. And so that's very common. So she could do a lot better. So I found a local civil engineering firm, told them about her, and talked to the recruiter guy, and he said, have her call me because we're always looking for people who can do CAD, right? And it'll change her life, okay? And I'm like, why don't we do that for people? Why don't we pay more attention to people and their aptitude or their desire? Man, I got to thinking about, most people make the mistake of putting all their energy behind their passion instead of putting their passion behind their aptitude. And I'm like, wow. And I got to thinking about, where I've been and what I've done. When I was in the mortgage business, the I didn't know I had any aptitude for it at all, right? Um, I knew somebody that got their real estate license, and I'm like, hey, she ain't smarter than me. And so I got my real estate license. And when I got my real estate license, I got hired by a mortgage company. Okay. And, doing what they didn't seem like all that hard to me. The hardest part for everybody was talking to people. Well, I had a guy. When I got in the military, I'm thinking, I don't want to be a security guard. I don't want to be in law enforcement. I don't want to have to deal with the people you got to deal with in those fields. Oh, and but I knew there was going to be a need for physical security, so I go and I do interview with this guy right over from Israel, and he started a security company here in San Diego, Mission Valley, and he liked my resume. He says, "How are you going to get these clients?" And I'm sure there's a lot of companies around here that have a need for physical security. And he's like, He points to the phone. He says, you need to get. They're busy. You can't just walk in and talk to them. You need to get good on the phone. All right. So I'm good on the phone. Okay. Now what I found out was most people aren't. People judge you as they see themselves in your situation. If they don't think that they can do what you're trying to do, they're not gonna think that you can do it. All right. So making a lot of phone calls, even people that are high up in my company, they're like, you know, how do you do that? I'm like, I just dial the number. I got. If I want to talk to somebody, I really want to talk to somebody. The most people I want to talk to during the day, I let it ring 3 times, and I hang up and I send a text, and to call me back, and I'll talk to more people that way, right? I'll make more dials, and I'll actually communicate with more people, right? If I let it ring 3 times and leave a message, that's usually I'm gonna put in the message that it's important, right? And I'm gonna tell them what I'm talking about, right? And that emphasis in the message can make them call me back. Okay, so these are all a little psychology I have when I'm smiling and dialing. All right, but I'm really good on the phone. All right, have a great Sunday.